43 nations currently hold more external debt denominated in US dollars than in their own currency. That is not a financial arrangement. That is a chain of command, dressed in the language of development finance. When a country borrows in dollars, it must earn dollars to repay. It cannot print its way out. Only the Federal Reserve can do that. So it must export, comply, and behave in ways that keep the dollar flowing. The loan is not a loan. It is a set of instructions. This is not conspiracy. It is architecture. The dollar system was formalized at Bretton Woods in July 1944, when 44 nations convened at a New Hampshire hotel and agreed to peg their currencies to the dollar, which was itself pegged to gold. When Nixon closed the gold window on August 15, 1971, the peg to gold died. The peg to American geopolitical power did not. What remained was a system in which US dollar hegemony is enforced not by gold reserves, but by debt dependency. Nations that hold dollar-denominated obligations must maintain relationships with US-aligned financial institutions, the IMF, the World Bank, the correspondent banking network. Step out of line and access gets restricted. Argentina learned this in 2001. Sri Lanka learned it in 2022. The mechanism is not subtle once you see it. The weapon is not the dollar itself. It is dollar-denominated debt. A nation that holds dollar reserves has options. A nation that owes dollar debt has obligations. That distinction is the entire architecture of modern monetary coercion. By 2023, low and middle-income countries were spending over $443 billion annually on external debt service. Much of it in dollars they had to earn through export compliance or austerity measures dictated by creditors. Sanctions make the structure explicit. When the US froze $300 billion in Russian central bank reserves in February 2022, it demonstrated something the world had theorized but never seen at that scale. Dollar-denominated assets are not property, they are permission. The owner holds them at the discretion of the issuer. That is not wealth, that is a conditional pass. The response from non-aligned states has been predictable. Scramble toward alternative settlement rails. China's cross-border interbank payment system. Bilateral ruble-yuan trade agreements. Indian rupee oil settlements with the UAE. These are real moves, and they reflect genuine geopolitical pressure. But they are not exits, they are substitutions. One politically controlled currency for another. One leverage relationship exchanged for a different one. A yuan-denominated debt carries the same structural logic as a dollar-denominated debt. The creditor still holds the mechanism. The borrower still owes in a currency it cannot issue. Replacing dollar hegemony with yuan hegemony does not solve the dependency architecture. It relocates it. Bitcoin solves the structure, not just the incumbent. It is the first monetary asset that exists outside every nation's issuance authority, unseizable when held in self-custody, borderless in settlement, and indifferent to the political relationship between sender and receiver. A nation that denominated its reserves or its trade settlements in Bitcoin would owe nothing to any issuer. There is no issuer. That is the point. El Salvador made this move legally in September 2021, imperfect in execution, precise in logic. The Central African Republic followed in April 2022. Both nations were heavily dependent on dollar and CFA franc systems respectively. Both faced IMF pressure to reverse course. The IMF's objection was not economic. Bitcoin's volatility is a real but solvable engineering problem over time. The objection was structural. A nation holding Bitcoin is a nation that has partially exited the dependency chain. For individuals, the logic is identical. A person whose savings are held in a currency their government can inflate, freeze, or confiscate is not a saver. They are a creditor to a state, and a junior one with no recourse. Bitcoin held in self-custody answers that condition directly, not as speculation, as sovereignty. The dollar is not going to collapse next Tuesday. Dollar hegemony will degrade at the pace of geopolitics, slowly, then in lurches. What is already happening is that the architecture of dollar dependency is becoming visible to governments that previously had no alternative to accepting it. Bitcoin is the alternative that changes the negotiating position. not just for individuals, but for every sovereign entity that has ever been told what its monetary options are by the entity it owes money to. The loan was always the leash. Now there is a door. If this episode made you think differently, subscribe. New episodes every week. And if you want to go deeper, there's more waiting for you. This is not a channel about price. It's a channel about civilization.